Okay, welcome to Show Business. Time to have a lighter conversation, but a very important one. Today we are discussing President John Mahama's recent comments on boosting the local movie industry. At the launch of the Black Star Experience yesterday, the president announced that only Ghanaian films will be shown on the presidential jet, a policy he first introduced during his previous administration. To unpack what this means for the creative sector, I'm joined, not in studio, on Zoom by culture journalist Kenneth Auchidako. Good afternoon to you, Ken. I'd like to get this out of the way before we start. Ghanaians are asking, where in the world are you?
Darryl, we'll discuss this. We'll discuss this off the camera. I don't know why you're allowing Ghanaians to ask this question.
Nobody is concerned.
I know it's very important to ask, but yeah, we'll talk about it later.
In the presidential jets, maybe, where there will be Ghanaian films showing, I bet. So, I mean, this directive by the president, purely symbolic, or could it have a real economic benefits for filmmakers?
So this is, in as much as is symbolic, it is something that, if followed through, will be very exciting for the Ghanaian scene. I mean, in a sense, quite a strong, a message about prioritizing what local content actually is. So we all know how much of a pride that the presidential jet is, and so to have the jet that carries the president of the land, talk about the fact that it's going to only exclusively be showing local films. I think it's sort of boosts the visibility that the space has in terms of the international front, and also kind of instill some sort of prestige among filmmakers who are making sure that they portray the culture of their country. And so, Darryl, as you rightly mentioned, in as much as it's quite symbolic, it's also a step towards promoting the industry in a very good way.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how this act by the president will help the movie industry. I mean, if it comes to the reasons why our movies are not maybe well marketed or are not doing so well, perhaps it's because of quality, no?
So, of course, the president just mentioning it does not mean that it's just a magic wand that's going to happen. I mean, the industry needs to come together to make this quite a holistic approach, because there are so many challenges that are already bedeviling the industry when it comes to film and the creative sector as a whole, because there's the issue of funding, there's the issue of, modern cinema, there's also the issue of streaming partnerships, which is not talked about enough. So this is quite a very good step if the presidency quite leads by example, where it's something that could pressure other institutions to come together. And in terms of like the various players in the industry, like you can talk about the airlines industry, you can talk about the hoteliers industry, the ministries, the government organizations that are in charge are supposed to be making sure that all of these frameworks work hand in hand to ensure that there's some sort of consistency that follows this directive. And so it's a policy that's, it goes beyond just the administration, basically. There has to be like real investments that can see the film industry go globally and compete with the other industries that are, up in the industry when it comes to film.
Well, one quick question. Hopefully, I mean, thousands of Ghanaians will follow the president's lead and watch local movies. But the president mentioned, well, this is not new. He did it back in the previous administration. So what's going to change, and how would this make a real difference? 1 minute.
This is a critical question, seeing that he is a political figure as well. So we have had various initiatives being started by different administrations and have not been followed through. And so the question of whether or not it's going to be materialized is very important, especially the fact that he also initiated it in 2012. So what makes it quite different is that the initiative is a good step, but back then you would realize that the frameworks, you would agree with me, have increased. There have been a lot more investment by private players, and to some extent, the government as well. If you look at the fact that the global in-flight entertainment industry, and connectivity has showcased some growth. I mean, the fact that the compound annual growth rates of 6.38% has been experienced in the global in-flight entertainment industry between 2020 and 2023. And so if we look at that as well, and considering the fact that the market, was valued at some 5.7 billion in 2023, which is expected to grow to about 11.86 billion in 2030, you would understand that there's a lot of money that's supposed to be made. And so in as much as he has indicated that in 2012, we didn't see much progress, the fact that he mentions it now is something that we should now take very seriously, because the frameworks are now there. All we need to do is to ensure that there's a lot more investment to ensure that and see how best it can tie into the current framework, which is the Black Star Experience that is also being organized by the government as well. So these are all different ways that the corporate players and then the private sector can also tie in.
All right. Thank you so much, Ken Alchidako.